everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Susanna and this is my channel Money with Susanna, where I go over all things financial, navigating new grad life after graduating school, and all that fun stuff. So in today's video, I'll be doing another payday routine. Say hi to my dog back there, Rosie. I'll give a brief rundown of the field that I'm working in, how long I've been working, and then jump into my pay stub to see how much I made, all the deductions and investments. And then I'll go into where all that money's going, credit cards to pay off, places where I'll be putting my money, and run through my sinking funds and all that. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to stick around and let's jump right in. So just to give a brief background of myself, if you're new here, I am a new grad working in supply chain in Alberta, Canada, and I am in my second rotation. So I'm doing 3 rotations over a 3-year term with 12 months in every single rotation, all within supply chain at my company. So I'm in my second rotation. I've been working since June 2024. I graduated university in May 2024. So I've been working for like just under a year and a half now. And yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot so far. There's so much to learn and it's really fun. And it's also really nice to get paid to learn as opposed to being in school where you're paying to learn and taking tests and all that. So it is really nice to just be working a nice corporate job and have stability. And yeah, so we get paid semi-monthly, so that's 24 times in a year as opposed to bi-weekly, which is 26 times a year. So sometimes my paychecks aren't exactly 2 weeks apart, and I believe now is the case as well, because today's Friday and last time I got paid, I think on Thursday. So it's kind of wonky in that way, but essentially I get paid 24 times a year. Also, my company does provide a matching program for my retirement savings and I am maxing that out. But once we get into the deduction section, I will show you that there. So let me open my pay stub and I'll share screenshots on the screen of each section as we go through it. So this pay period was September 16th to September 30th. So I technically get paid in advance a little bit. And then my total earnings for this period were $3,441.01. And my total deductions were $1,089.66. It always hurts to see the deductions, but I know that like a decent chunk of that is for my retirement savings. So I just need to remind myself that because it just sucks to see like essentially a third of your paycheck go to deductions, but I know we all have the same struggle with this, so it's not just me. So jumping into the earnings section, my base pay, which is my regular salary pay, came out to $3,254.17. And just for background, my base salary, I believe, is $78,200. Now, another part of my earnings was our annual allowance, and that was $91.67 for this pay period. And essentially, so my base salary is that $78,000, but then I also get $2,200 on top of that base salary, and it's paid out semi-monthly as well. And I think the purpose of this is for like transit, gym and stuff like that. That's kind of the intention of it, but they're open about the fact that we can use that for anything. It's essentially just an additional part of the compensation. However, that's not used when they look at raises and bonuses and stuff like that. My base salary is what's used for those instances. And then the last part of my earnings is $95.17, and that's for my flex dollars. So this is basically money that I can take out of my HSA, my health savings account or health spending account, and I can take that out onto my paycheck because I think there's also around like $2,000-ish in there on an annual basis, which obviously you can use for like any health related expenses. But knock on wood, luckily for me, I'm pretty healthy and I don't actually end up using that money. Like last year, I didn't really use a lot of the health spending account money. So I decided to just take that out onto my paychecks this time around. So yeah, that brings, like I said, my total to $3,441.01 for the earnings. Now, moving on to deductions. Income tax regular for this period was $538.54, and this is the provincial and the federal portion. Then CPP employee contributions, which is the Canadian pension plan. I'm sure there's some US equivalent, I'm just not sure what it is, but this is me essentially paying into this like big fund that Canada has for pensions, was $205.74. And then EI, employee premiums, so employer's insurance, also a Canadian government thing, was only $13.16. And actually this paycheck is larger by I think around like $50 than my last pay period paycheck. And I noticed that it's because the EI premiums went down quite a bit, I think by like $50 this pay period. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm not complaining by any means, but I think since it's almost October, I probably like reached the tier 1 limit would be my guess. So I think like you pay in a certain amount up until a certain salary, and then you pay less once you hit that salary or like that annual contribution limit. I'm not totally sure. If anybody knows, let me know in the comment, because I mean, it's definitely welcome to see more money on my paychecks, but I don't know if it's a one-off or if this is what it's gonna be for the rest of the year. But either way, it was nice to see. And now the next parts is just my life and I think accidental death, potentially, insurance. But I believe that's just, I actually don't really know what that is. I don't know if that's a government thing or like a private benefits thing through my work, but that was just $6.16 and then 64 cents. And then lastly, these are my contributions. So this is me being part of the matching program at work. And that was $195.25 for my RRSP, which is my registered retirement savings plan. So that's our tax deferred account here in Canada for retirement. And then $130.17 to my DCPP, which is the defined contribution pension plan. So many acronyms, but the $130.17, so the DCPP, that's like super duper locked in until retirement. And the RRSP is supposed to be used for retirement, but also there's this program here to help first-time home buyers, and I'll be able to use that amount for my down payment. So it's pretty amazing that my company matches that. So essentially my company is helping contribute to my down payment, which is pretty cool. And with that brings my total deductions to $1,089.66. Sad, but it's okay. And then this next section here is the taxable benefits section. So I blacked out my employer. So essentially I get the match of my RRSP as my company's stock, but I'm doing a 6% contribution and they max out at 5%, which is why it's a little bit lower than that $195. And then I'll just put it on the screen, the employer contributions, but I'm not gonna go through all of these because it's just like benefits and stuff, and just like the EI and the CPP on the employer's end. But I'll just put it on the screen for reference. And my employer contributed $692.13 for this pay period. So that brings my total net pay, so what I see in my bank account, to $2,351.35. So yeah, a little bit higher than last time, which is always nice to see. So now let's move on to chatting about where I put this money and where I move my money on payday. So given that my employer contributes to my retirement pretty generously, and like I already have that match through work, I'm not currently saving up for retirement on my own. So I only have that RRSP and that DCPP account through work, and I don't have my own open accounts for those. I do have a first home savings account, an FHSA, and I've been contributing pretty heavily into that because we're trying to buy a home next year. And then I also have a TFSA where I just put a little bit of money every single paycheck just to kind of keep up the habit of investing. And then I also have a teeny tiny crypto portfolio, which accounts for like maybe 2% of. Sorry if you can hear any background noise, my dog is playing with her toy carrot right now, and like she was digging in her kennel. So hopefully you can't hear that, but anyways. So, and then I also have a crypto account, but I don't put a ton of money in there. I kind of just do that for fun. And I just purchase Bitcoin every single pay period. And so the way I take out this money is using Wealthsimple. I love Wealthsimple so much. Like, I do not shut up about how much I love Wealthsimple. That's where my paycheck gets deposited. And then through there, you can set up automations. So that's what I do. So for example, I have a $450 automation right now for my down payment savings, which is $900 a month. And the second that my money hits my account, then the automations kind of kick in. So it has already taken out the $450 for my down payment and then $30 for my TFSA. and then $10 for my Bitcoin. And all of that is done in Wealthsimple, so all of it kind of just like moves into its respective accounts. So that is super easy. I don't have to do anything there. Now, moving on to sinking funds, I have a couple as well, and these are also automated. And so the three that I have are my vacation fund, my gifts fund, and then my health fund. So for my vacation fund, it auto deposited $50 in there this pay period. For gifts, it deposited $30, and then for health, it was $60. So those totals are $100, $60, and $120 in total. Now I am contributing a lot more into my vacation fund right now because I have a trip coming up, but I didn't want to set up the automations to be higher than I can do every single paycheck. So I kept those low, and then I contribute even more into those sinking funds on an as needed basis. So those are all of my automations. And then my least favorite part of my payday is paying off my credit card. So I try my best to pay off my credit card like pretty regularly, more than on a bi-weekly period. But honestly, I haven't really been doing that much recently. I prefer to do it like every other day or every 5 days or something because the amount is smaller, so it like hurts my soul a little bit less. But like I said, I haven't been really good at doing that. So let me just log into my TD account and we'll see what the damage is. And then I pay that off in full every payday. Okay guys, it's so much worse than I thought. Oh my goodness. So the current balance right now is $605.21. But it gets worse. My pending charges are $159.59. So that's not good. But that's on me for not paying it off in little increments. So that being said, I don't like do the math perfectly, but I for sure pay off the posted balance, so like the $605, and then I roughly estimate the pending, and then I like to do a little bit more than the pending usually, just because I know that like the transactions will rack up, so might as well just put a little bit more. So unfortunately, I will be putting $800 to my credit card today, which is sad, but it is what it is. I use my credit card for like 95% of everything I spend. So I just can't put my rent on it. They just don't allow that. But besides that, pretty much everything. So it's okay. It's fine. I mean, I have the money, but yeah, definitely my least favorite part of payday. And with that, that is pretty much my whole payday routine. After that, I just keep all of the remaining money in my checking account because that's where my rent comes out of, and that's just where I like to have a little bit of a buffer. So I haven't calculated all that, but I'll just calculate it off to the side, and I'll put the remaining amount that I have of this paycheck in my checking account on the screen. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for sticking around if you've made it this far. Let me know if this is similar to your payday routine, if you even have a payday routine. I'm also always curious to see other people's deductions, so if you'd like, just let me know what your deductions are, or if yours are pretty similar to mine, or if mine are more or less. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!